Thanks for tuning in to Power Athlete Radio. The voice of the early episodes of Power Athlete Radio is back. Joining us at Power Athlete HQ on a traincation is Denny K. We catch up with our good buddy over some banter about goal setting, the gains he's making in the strongman world, and so much more. Older, wiser, and a shit ton stronger is the best way to describe this early adopter of CrossFit football and Power Athlete. The struggle for lifting awkward shit is real, but Denny K's passion for doing it is realer. Over the years, Denny has taken on a number of athletes of all backgrounds and sports. Here, Luke and Tex flesh out the details on how to approach each of these athletes' potential limiting factors. And the consensus is that lack of adequate mentoring, particularly for youth athletes, is the ultimate disservice. How can a coach step up to the plate? Is it by leading by example, talking with the parents, or creating a culture in which the athlete is steeped in images of success? This is episode 170.
We're going rogue.
It's going rogue.
Now, Denny, do you remember the line?
I don't, man. Shit. It's been a long time. Are we on?
We're rolling.
What's happening, Power Athlete Nation? Welcome to another podcast of the premier strength and conditioning podcast, Power Athlete Radio.
This is Denny, the voice. He's back
in the house.
I've never heard it called a traincation. I'm sure that's just like
traincation, man.
This is
there's staycations, there's vacations, and then there's traincation.
Not the first time we've combined two words to create a new word. Punishment, infotainment, and now traincations.
Traincations.
So
at Power Athlete HQ for a traincation.
Now, Denny, this is possible. We do now have groupies that we are officially the premier podcast in strength and conditioning. If they don't recognize who you are, why don't you tell these people who you are?
Who am I?
Who is Denny K?
Shit, man. Denny K goes back to old school CrossFit football when you had to punch people in the dick.
Literally.
There was the Tabata, what was it?
Deadlift.
Tabata deadlift or the go fuck yourself shirt. Something that I didn't do at that time, right? But that Denny K came from those days, and it just kind of morphed into this beautiful voice that you can hear now.
That used to be a regular.
That used to be a regular, man. Like
episode 1. You remember that idea?
I'm in demand, yo. I am in demand. Like this podcast changed my whole life. People started reaching out and contacting me, and I just became overwhelmed. I had to take a step back and kind of like schedule everything again and do some soul search and decide what I needed to do. And it's to kick ass and help people move better.
That's
and do strongman shit.
And to do strong.
Yes. And do strongman shit. Like my new thing, man. Jenny, my girl Jenny back home, she played rugby. She came to the gym, dude. She was probably like, oh, she's gonna kill me for this. Probably like 270-ish. Bad knees. I watched her squat one day, and I was just like, wow. At that time, I was coaching more CrossFit classes, and it was one of those times when it was just her and I, right? Everybody's been there at some point where one person shows up for the class, and you have them for an hour. We just squatted, right? Because she was kind of doing the massive kind of squatting into her knees, and she was telling me I can't do all these things. So like for that whole hour, it was just kind of getting her to like sit back a little bit more, widen the stance, sit in her hamstrings a little bit more, and it changed, right? Like she kept practicing that and started not having knee pain. And I was telling her that she was kind of one of the strongest women that I've ever worked with. So she started entering kind of the local strongman competitions in that area and fucking won every single one of them. And then she's like, you got to do this with me. You got to do this with me. And because when I came to that gym, I started bringing Atlas stones and just those odd objects that I knew from the stuff that we do.
Dude, I can remember doing like when we first had Bobby, this is original show, like when we were still Skyping and shit like that, when we had Bobby on, and you were like, and we were in the conference room at the old Balboa. Like that's when we were like, this is old school shit, like first 20 episodes. And
He's talking about fucking
fire hydrants. And you were like, I could hear your fucking eyes open over the fucking microphone from across the country, and you're just like, fire hydrants? And Bobby's like, yeah, fire hydrants. And I think that might be where the seed was planted for you, bro.
You remember what I asked him, too? I'm like, so what do you do with those? Like, clean them to your shoulder? It's like, dude, you know how fucking heavy those are?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude, you're not going to fucking clean them to your shoulders. Like, it's hard enough to pick those fucking things up and carry them.
Yeah.
Because they're all top heavy and shit. But, yeah. But no, so she really kind of was like, you got to do these contests with me. And I'm like, all right. So I started doing them. And I think deep down, like, I'm a strength power athlete. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to fucking run miles. I don't want to do, like, 20, 30 minute, Metcons. I've done that stuff and it has its place. And, my forte is just kind of like, go heavy and hard for like a minute. You can ask all the women I've dated in my past.
Hey-o.
Woo! No. Heavy farmer carries, yokes, kegs, fucking stones, man. Like the circus dumbbell, the wide grip, right? Grip strength, all that kind of stuff that just like fucking is this, it's just fun for me, right? Yeah. And so we started doing those, man. And we try to do a contest like at least once a month or every other month, because there's always consistency. You're going to have some sort of a pull and carry, right? But one contest could be, all right, it's going to be a keg load, right? And the next one will have a stone. So it'll give you some new things to kind of work with, so the training doesn't get too boring.
Yeah.
And it's just what I enjoy doing.
So this is something we discuss in the CrossFit Football Seminar when we talk about field work, or the collegiate strength and conditioning template. And so one of the things that we like to highlight is what field work is, and it's a challenge. Mm-hmm. So it's that opportunity to put a challenge into training. So whether it's a kid, whether it's mom, whoever, they look at that awkward object and they think to themselves in the beginning, I don't know if I can do this. But then with your help as a coach, you put them in a position to step up to the plate and find a way to move this awkward implement and overcome that challenge. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's a good strongman kind of approach. All these different competitions, it's not the same two lifts back and forth. It's, all right, we're going to do, like you said, pull, carry, and then we're going to do something creative, like a truck pull you were talking about.
The truck pull. A Conan wheel, dude. We did a fucking Conan wheel.
Explain to our viewers, I know what it is, what a Conan wheel is.
Oh, dude, so this one event that we did, it was a Conan wheel it's like a fucking, exactly. It looks like a
really misbalanced, really misbalanced, right? Long teeter-totter. So in the center, there's like
an axis.
Yeah.
And then a bar, which the guy, finding a fabricator is like a fucking diamond in the rough, dude. As soon as we found a guy who can make this stuff, he starts, I can make, I told him, dude, you got to make one. He's like, about 3 months. But there's like an axis here, and basically it's like a ball and hitch, and then your searcher carry this thing, the weights on the side, and he welded like a kind of like a triangle here, and you just stack plates on, pick it up, and walk it. There's many trips. It was like, just keep going until you got to put it down.
Yeah, and then they count the rotations.
They count the rotations, and the beautiful thing about Strongman is like the loads are given to you. It's here's the event. It's a Conan wheel. It's 500 pounds. How many rotations can you do? Like, you can't scale that, right? It's the ultimate Big Ted, talk to me, Johnny. Like, there's no scaling. Like, here it is. Here's everything's predetermined, right? So you have something to train for. It's like, fuck, man. Like I was saying earlier, it used to be the 500-pound deadlift. Like this, the first 2 shows I did, I went up there and like max reps for a minute. One was 550. Max reps for a minute, and it's like a fucking pull on it, and it's not going anywhere. And people are looking at me to see if I'll quit, right? If I'll walk away, be like, I just can't do it. Or if I'll keep going for it, because you get that fucking respect like that, right? And it's kept pulling. And I couldn't do it. I'd zero in that event. And then I prioritized it in my training. That was like through November. By February, March, I was able to start pulling that shit, right? And then we did one. It was similar to that. It was like a yoke deadlift, same height. And I think we worked up to, I pulled like 6 1/4 on that.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck yeah, dude. And then now it's the 300-pound stone. You
Yeah.
know, there's always something.
Where you got to like, you got to
it's a
sharpen your
penalty,
blade, right?
right? We did this one contest in Strasburg, Illinois, and it came down to meanest guy for the wire. There was about like 5 dudes in my division, and the last event was the stone, right? It was stone over a 50-inch bar. You can take a 275 and put it over for reps, right? Or you can do the 300 weight counts. You put 300 one time, you'll beat, no matter how many you did. If you did it 10 times at 275 and I did 300, I won. So these guys all did 275. I'm the last one to go, and I'm like, the guys, I walk up there, he's like, what are you going to do? And usually those 300-pound stones are like this. This one was a little bit smaller, and I'm like, well, is that the 300? He goes, you're going to do 300? And he rolls it over. He goes, he's going to do 300, right? And I'm like, I'm going to do the fucking 300, right? I'm like, it's the 8-mile moment. Like, here it is, man. Everything's on there. Either I'm going to fucking do it or I'm not. And you had a minute to try and put it up there, and I'm pulling and rolling on my chest. I'm getting it to the bar, and I just needed a couple more inches to push it over, and I couldn't do it. It drops. He's like, do it again. You still got time. I pick that fucker up. I'm pulling up there. The crowd's up behind me. I get it up to the bar, and I just can't get it over there, and it fucking drops. And he's like, you got 15 seconds, man. Pick that fucker up again. And I went down there, picked it up, rolled it up to my fucking chest. Couldn't put it over the bar, and it dropped. And I didn't fucking place.
But you went for it.
But you know what? I fucking went for it, and I will get that, right? I have a mold. I'm going to go train with Logan tomorrow. We're going to I'll make that 300 feel like, something I can do 5-6 times.
Right.
And then it'll be something else. But, what I told myself is like, how many people would have taken that risk in front of a crowd, either looking like a chump or it's going to look like the greatest thing in the world, right? Or like the football play, like the goal line stance kind of a thing, right? Like if the play works and you score and you win, it was like, oh, what a great fucking call that was.
Yeah.
If you don't make it, it's like, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah.
But it's making that risk. Or taking that risk. There's like an emotional response to that, man. And it just, you don't rise to the occasion, kind of you resort to level your training. So I have something to now work and train more to fucking do that, And then, like I said, it'll be something else.
Well, I mean, it comes down to progression too, because that's not your final competition, right?
It is.
And just like, we were talking about linear progression the other day and how, right, we're calling it failure. Like, you failed. But that failure is indicative of a moment, a baseline moment, and something that becomes a meaningful number or meaningful event. And from there, now you have a more focused goal to like achieve and break through that plateau, right?
Yes.
So
when I fucking want to fucking quit, or the shit's getting hard for me, or it's challenging, or coach is pushing me, what's going to go through my fucking head? That moment, right? I can connect. I'll always have a connection to that moment. And that's looking at things in a greater perspective, right? Like, fuck, the contest is over. It was great. We had a good time. I'll do it again next year, but I have that connection with that that's going to
fuel the fire.
Great, So, yeah, man. And Jenny and I, we trained. They're going to the Nationals next month. I qualified for one this September in Vegas. And then we're going to try and shoot for the Nationals in Detroit in 2017. So that's the next one's in Decatur. And there's
Decatur, the Paris of the Midwest.
There's not a truck pull. There's a fucking car deadlift for reps.
Yeah.
How fucking cool is that, dude?
You got to channel your inner Toretto, right?
The fucking car deadlift. They like back that fucker on this like machine, and it just kind of adjusts the pins per like there's always a novice or there's a regular in the division. So
right.
But even the novice like is fucking heavy and fucking hard. So
going back to like setting the events and things like that, and there's kind of a standard template that you can I guess see at these competitions. And Dr. Tom was a strongman, and he was telling us how he went about becoming a national champion. And he's like, here's what I did. For all the past 10 years, I looked at each individual event, and I created a matrix of what the world record times are. I then tested my baseline, and I created a linear approach on how I should be able to progress if I wanted to break all these national champions. And that's what he ended up doing. That was his training, was solely following his little linear fucking progression. Granted, he's also a fucking animal and like obsessive compulsive genius who's strong as fuck, right? Like, so that helped him.
Yeah.
But he's like, that's how he broke it down. He's like, I'm just going to look at what the best did, and I'm going to try and do better. And what's interesting about that is he's working with some high level CrossFitters now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Nice. He was at the games with us, and you know, we were working with some of the girls too. But I asked him, because he's fucking dude. He's like this. He might be the smartest person I have ever came across when it comes to especially performance in sports. And I said, do you think? And so I guess let me back up before. Dr. Tom also works with like terminal diseases. And,
as he should.
And he's like, I love doing this because what people say can't be done, I want to prove can be done. And he's like, and people will come to him and he says, and they'll go, money is no option. Just make me healthy again. He's like, do you actually mean that? Do you actually mean money is no option? Because he's a scientist. He doesn't have like the emotional connection to like, oh, money is no option actually means like at $5 million, cut it off. For example, money is no option is like, if it's really no option, I'm going to have fucking this $5,000 per gram ginseng flown in overnight. I'm going to get this IV from this fucking guy over here flown in overnight. You know what I mean? Like, so he says like, if it's not an option, that's something. So I posed him the question, if money was no option, could you create an athlete that would be guaranteed to win the CrossFit Games? And he said, absolutely.
No shit.
Yeah, and he said he would.
So Luke's going for it.
Yeah, so basically, money, except I don't have fucking $10 billion to live in with Dr. Tom and his family and take his crazy supplement packs to block interleukin-4. And then, but his deal was you just break down the elements, right? And then you have two options. You either get stronger through the movement pattern or improve neural efficiency, right? And that's specifically for the CrossFit. And it's so you minimize energy expenditure because that is the limiting factor for the CrossFit. And I'm like, well, is it like Strongman? He's like, no, nothing like Strongman. He's like, but it's the same process. You break it down into the fundamental elements. You map out where you're at, where you need to be. And then just over time, I guess what I'm getting at and connecting it back, you're going to obviously fail. Like you're going to be competing. Competing is how we expand abilities because there's nothing in the gym that will help you replicate the environment, the eyes, fucking all eyes on you, make or break. Because if you hit the 300-pound stone in that competition, that becomes an element of your training now. You've now expanded that ability and established it, right?
But he's still expanded that ability because he had 3 reps at the highest amount of stress that you can ever like implement. So now guess what your body's going to do? Adapt.
Right.
They're going to adapt to the stress you put on it to succeed.
So, if that fucking yoke was 2 inches lower, was it going over?
Hey,
or you were 2 inches taller.
Why didn't you wear work boots? It's like, you know what? Why did they fucking think of that? Right? Next time I do stones over bar, I'm going in there with fucking work boots and high heels. Yeah, kiss fucking boots. Like those people come up with some crazy shit, and it's like, wow, you know, fucking.
Good point. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
But so.
I'd like to stick with goals. So you mentioned a couple goals, and then you talked to us earlier before the podcast about like a 13-year-old. So this is something that I've been just contemplating and trying to wrap my head around in conversations about competition, back and forth with Luke during the mornings, during the training sessions, and then working with kind of a lot of high school younger kids. And then they realize that they don't know what they know what they want. So they show up to training, whether it's for basketball, whether it's for football, it doesn't matter. These kids just show up because either their parents are dropping off, their coach is making it, and they don't necessarily know what they want. So done a lot of kind of research with goals, and I can't stand self-help stuff. So I kind of avoided that, but then went to a lot of different coaches that I've worked with in the past, and then, you know, classics like Lou Holtz and freaking Jimmy V. So just basic goal approach. And some correlations and things that I found is that most people just say they want. So 95% of the world just says, I want to do this.
Or I want to look this way.
Yes, and we have all experienced that. And then what we don't see, though, is for you to move on past the I want stage is for you to actually write your goals down. Write it down. So it becomes at that moment an actual goal that I tell every kid to just put it up in their bathroom mirror so they're forced to look at it every single day. So it's that I want, and how we get past it is just writing it down. From writing it down, it's kind of directing how you write it, and it becomes a language. So from there, it's I will become a better rebounder. So it's speaking in a vocal awareness. I mean, I've worked with a lot of high school kids, and they get down. Whether they're negative talk of I don't want to do this or I can't do that, they're creating a vocal perception that becomes reality. So if we're able to change that by having them write it down and speaking in successful language, I will accomplish this, that, whatever their goal is. And then in a team, I love team environments. If you have someone that's down, you have to change their vocal awareness so that way it's in that positive direction, whether it's for them as an individual or the overall goal of the team. So from vocal awareness, it starts to become action. So this is where action steps come into place. And weightlifting is the ultimate action because you got to do it. You're here with me. You're here with Denny. You're here with Luke. You have to do these reps. So within action, having success is we lead into visualization. So it's not just doing the reps. We want you to have a mental approach as you go into the bar. And I talk about this in several of the Power Coach self-esteem articles. So this is rooted back to those. Check those out. Power Coach Fear, Power Coach Self-Esteem on Power Athlete HQ. And then it's practicing and forcing them to do visualization. So in envisioning success of those reps, which then gets them practicing of their mind is directed towards a task. They step up to the bar and then they actually succeed at it physically. So you can tie this into a timeout, a coach writing a play on the board. Well, what's going through those players' heads? They're seeing it go into it. So if we kind of practice visualization within a known task, then guess what? It's an automatic response to practice visualization when they're presented with novel tasks in their sport. For lacrosse, if you're on offense and it's your opportunity, they call your number. We call it Rolex, whatever number, name, means it's time, your time to go. You take a step back and you have a moment and opportunity to kind of think about your move you're going to put on the defender. So in basketball, we see it all the time with freaking greats like Westbrook and Rose. They take one step back. They see the field that's in front of them. They visualize it for one instant, one moment, and then they just go. So visualization and success physically, that leads to accomplishment. And so accomplishment, you must acknowledge your successes. So acknowledging your successes leads to confidence. So I did this. I did that. Awesome. But then acknowledging your failures is where we truly grow. So confidence in you did not succeed at that 300-pound stone. So what'd you do? Shit. Did you get down on yourself? No, you looked at how you could actually succeed at this. What was it? Grow 2 inches because of work boots. Like George Costanza in that backwards episode. If you remember that one. So confidence can be because of success, or creating an opportunity because you failed. Then you can direct that confidence. I'm going to approach this situation, this task, this play, whatever it is, with confidence because now that I'm prepared because of a failure. You can't just look at failure and accept it.
No.
Right. So then this would lead to actualization. So actualization is the success of a failure that you didn't have before, which then leads to experience. And that's where you gain experience as an athlete. Then you're comfortable, confident in all situations and phases of the game, stages. Even if it's the fourth quarter, they're calling your number, you're not going to shy away. Because, I mean, as talented as athletes that I've played with, I've worked with, there's been the guys that are great in practice, but that moment, they're not gamers. But then there's other guys who are like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want the ball. They're calling their own shot, and we want to kind of exude that. And then Raph, kind of the last podcast we had with Raph, I absolutely loved it. It's the one big nugget I took away was expect more of yourself. And that goes back all the way to I want to do this. Well, what do you want to do? Are you going to limit that perception? Perception becomes reality. So if we're writing down big things, I want to do this, write it down, expect more of yourself. So any time I work with a team, this is kind of the walkthrough in the phase that I go through. And then worked with some of the high school down the street here. And then I was bringing home like sheets of paper written down, and Luke's like, what the fuck are those? I'm like, they're goals. So then I was just teaching these kids how to write it. First step, though, was what do you want to do? I can't tell you what you want to do. So then it was up, down, and around. I want to dunk.
Yeah.
I don't know. They were bad. But then now it was putting them in a position to empower these kids who have a direct. And then it was I will statements, that vocal awareness for the team. So if –
dude, like this is like a blueprint for freaking life. You know what I mean? And you're saying kids, I mean, 13-year-olds, they need this kind of shit. How many people are truly showing them how to go step by step?
nobody.
Nobody.
Well, and it's not even
nobody. Like,
but here's the thing, Denny, too, and this is what we were talking about, why this kid may be a pain in the ass that we were talking about earlier, is like, even if you tell them, telling them is like one small sliver.
Yeah.
It's creating a culture where this becomes the norm. And honestly, like this stuff to me,
this is a process.
Someone brainwashed me with this because I already like this is kind of an automatic thing for me. You know what?
When did you?
You're better than that.
But it wasn't always.
I know, and I'm just curious who the fucker was that did it.
Yeah. And at what? I mean, that 13. That's like a crucial age, right? For a young male, like if a role model or a mentor can step in and kind of be like, look, here's what I want you to do step by fucking step.
So and looking back, like we had the conversation with this kid this morning. It's Luke and I were talking about our different backgrounds, and I said I knew I was meant to be a coach. And my dad went to NC State, so I grew up just following Jim Valvano's approach every single year, which was never give up. Which then led into my uncle went to Notre Dame, so then I was following Notre Dame football with Lou Holtz, and then it's like the most positive person in the fucking world. So it's like all these directions and coaches were all coming back to goals. And then expecting more of yourself, never give up. But it's
and learning from like failing, you know what I mean?
And taking a different perspective to failure.
Right.
Not accepting it.
Not quitting or just being like, oh, I can't do this, right? A negative, use it. What's the positive of it? Why did you fail? And what steps can you take to try to prevent it next time, right? Or prevent it might not be the right word, but I mean, get over that hump because you're going to fail at something else.
Yeah,
there's always something.
Just learn something from failure.
You should want to fail at things just so you can become better. Maybe that didn't sound right, but I mean,
it should be courageous. Put yourself in a position to fail. Right, by overreaching, and then from there, what could I have done better, or worn boots, cheater, but
thicker work boots.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to turn this into kind of an actual guide, a video, or something that we can get onto our YouTube. But the bottom line is, and it goes back to another podcast we had with Double A, and we asked the question: is it kids these days, or is it the coaches? And he believed it was the coaches and parents, and gave a pretty solid story that happened that morning just by chance, which is crazy. And it's like, we can't just accept these kids for their actions. We have to do something about it. And then again, freaking 95% of the world sits in, I want this, I want that. Well,
never make it beyond that. Right?
What you can do about it.
Right.
Step one, write it down.
I just start with do it.
Do it.
Listen to Nike.
Do it.
Just do it.
So,
that's cool, dude. I got like a whole crop now. Now we're getting into like the 15, 16-year-olds. The past couple months, been training varsity hockey team.
Yes.
Right. And you want to talk about kids who are in dire need of a mentor and just like goals and directions, like they're there. You know what I mean? They're just like chomping at the bit for something like this. And I think if a part of you as being a coach doesn't want to mentor, then something's wrong, right? Like you should want to kind of be this role model, and you should see these guys, dude. For one thing, like hockey is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like I know we were talking a little bit before we got on the air here, but I never realized how like beneficial skates could be. Jay Welly! What's up, man? Looking good, looking huge.
don't know if that's good or bad. It is what it is.
But like the skates alone, how much of a crutch those could be.
Well, it's
such a
being
vital
an athlete.
piece of equipment, right?
Well, it's not
you've got
necessarily-
to know how to skate.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you use whatever you have to your advantage, right? As an athlete, and if there's a limitation or something, you work around it. But if the skate makes you better intuitively as an athlete, you're gonna use the skate rather than make it hard, like do the hard way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
And those guys are always, I know, so we do a lot of rotation. We work on a lot of rotation. I love like the 5-way med ball circuit kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Trying to create like stability in their pelvis.
I invented that.
You invented that? That's
Nobody did it for me. It's like the overhead squat.
the overhead squat. Bench press, right? We do a lot. I try to create like a stable pelvis, you know what I mean? Because these guys, I'd say the majority of it's Y, no X and Z. And you can see it, we talked a little bit about like their adductor. You would think a hockey player who kind of does like the side-to-side stride most of the time would have.
It's all forced production.
Yeah, they would have strong adductor, right? But I put them in something like a Captain Morgan. Because those, let me back up. Like when I assess teams like that, it almost looks like a mini seminar with the movements that we'll do. So, and I can learn a lot from that. They learn a lot from it. Like holy shit, I thought it was freaking strong, and these, and hear them sweating and shaking all over the place.
Just standing
still. Yeah. But you put them in something like a Captain Morgan, they can't hold it. They can't hold an isometric hold in their adductor, and then like they have no like the ankle strength. The ankles are kind of like locked in and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of like movement in there to strengthen those little tendons and stuff like that. So that doesn't surprise me, but the adductor stuff does.
Yeah.
And we hammer a lot of that kind of stuff in upper and lower body plyos. That stuff's always fun to do, but I don't know.
Hockey's interesting. One of the biggest battles I've had with hockey's the conditioning side of things, and just a matter of finding a connection to the way the game is played. So it's not necessarily the amount. And if you working with a stacked team, how deep's your team?
16.
16. That's not very stacked. So doing conditioning outside of their practice, that's going to have a detrimental effect on their practice and their skill development. So you got to you have an opportunity to talk to their coach.
Their head coach and then a few of the position coaches.
Yeah. So what you do is make them stable in all planes of motion. You can enhance their athleticism by, getting them out of the skates. And then it will no doubt transfer back, especially, once you start to practice harder, faster, longer than just conditioning at the end.
So how old are the athletes?
16.
How long have they been playing?
17. A lot. I'd say on the average, probably somewhere between 6 to 8 years, because they did like they started young.
Skate camp and shit.
They did camps and park district shit and stuff like that. And then I have 16 athletes that I work with, so I don't know really like how big the full team is, because I know not the whole team came in, right? But that's the group that I'm working with, and they when I started learning things about like face-offs, right, and how that works, and because the first thing what I noticed was like this everything's forward, their knees are forward, so I want to put them like in more of that hips back loaded athletic, universal athletic thing. I'm like, well, how? So I started talking to these guys.
That universal athletic thing.
That one thing, right? That we talk about every now and then. I was like, so in a face-off, show me what you guys look like in a face-off. So these two guys come in, and that's what I see. Just upright, knees forward. Then they kind of go down, right? Like they got the stick and they got their elbow up like this. And I'm like, I looked at the position coach and I'm like, is that right? Is that what you guys are coaching? And I meant that as a way, like, because I've never coached a face-off, but is that what you're teaching these guys? And he's like, well, this is not what I want them to do. And I'm like, how do you want them to look? You want them to look like this? And then I put this one kid in the UAP, and he's like, that's how it should be, right? It should be back, because when the puck drops, they're trying to twist it back. They're trying to twist it back
Gotta
behind.
get your toes forward there, Danny. There you go.
I was focusing more on the hand placement, right?
Hey, unconscious incompetence.
You're right.
Position.
You're right. They're going to pivot and turn, and they want to pass the puck behind them.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, they need to sit back and be able to kind of do this
Maneuver.
movement this way. And I'm like, then all right, this is what we got to do. Then we got to get these guys used to sitting back more. And I go, if you sit back more on skates, what's going to happen? Are you going to fall backwards? And they're like, no. Actually, the longest part of the blade, right, is kind of the center. If you're too far forward, you're going to be off balance. If you're too far back, you will. But if you're there, you're golden, right? And of course, that's where you're going to create the most power and, take that shot at the most crucial time. So it was nice to kind of bridge that, learn something, and then have these coaches learn something, because they want to coach the X's and the O's, but they might not have the greatest idea on should their body position be different, right? Why can't they make this shot? I don't get it. I'm putting them in the position to do that.
On the ice. Yeah.
On the ice. But
Right.
Body position.
They can't see the body position part of it, which is nothing new. I mean, that's where we come in.
Yep. That's the role of the strength coach.
You guys got a lot of movement going on around here. I don't remember it always being like this.
Well, typically when there's a guest, we mute on our end.
It is kind of weird being here. Usually I'm like sitting in my bathroom, recording with my pants off, with laptop on my laptop, right? Yeah. And it's weird to kind of like sit here and record on this.
Well, when Luke said make yourself at home, he didn't mean take your pants off.
That's how I just feel natural.
I know.
Right? I mean,
the odd part is when John walked in, his pants were already off as well.
Yeah. Well, I didn't wear pants to work anymore.
Don't you hate pants?
Don't you remember when Luke just wore sweatpants for a month?
That was during the middle of the bulk when my jeans didn't fit, and I just wore maternity pants.
He just wore sweatpants.
So, Tex, I have to be selfish because I have this opportunity. I'm here. One athlete I work with is a swimmer. And I know you went and worked with Ralph a lot. Ralph's training with the swim team.
The League of Shadows.
The League of Shadows. That was pretty good.
That's
right?
a great rap impression.
But yeah, I could use some ideas to help. This kid's 13. We were talking about 13-year-olds and stuff like that. He happens to be 13. I do like a lot of the streamlined stuff, Yeah. But I'm wondering, I'm thinking in my mind, like dead bugs, of course, right? They kind of help strengthen that. He had some low back problems when his mom came in and talked to me. And she's like, then he's tall. Swimmers are built weird. They got really long torsos, long arms, short legs. It's kyphotic spines. It's just, I guess that works for them, right?
The question is, do they gravitate towards swimming because they're built that way, or do they get molded that way because they swim?
Molded by it.
They get molded by it.
No, I think people gravitate towards what they're good at in a certain body type or excel at swimming.
And
unless they're sprinters. The sprinters girls are built different from the long distance swim girls.
But then they find their distance based off their body type.
Yeah. So I think like a more like you'll see like that Colleen Faust girl. She's like a sprinter. She's pretty jacked. Whereas China was more like a middle distance person.
Yeah.
But Ralph also talked about that. Did he say that there was like some crazy stuff with like the one girl that had like
hyper knee extension, plantar flexion, flexibility. And then even Stu McGill talked about, when he was talking about spinal column density on the podcast, he's like, someone with a thicker spinal column is going to be a better middle linebacker. Someone with a more dainty Tex-like spine.
I was going to say like you.
What? Come on. Dude, my spine is like, it's like rock solid spine.
The fact that
I'm talking like a big hog.
And the best is my neck did the same thing, and I was fine. Like over here, I did like 80.
Dude, well, it's because my brainstem is thicker because I have a higher emotional quotient than you do.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know. I'm totally fine. That's why I lack emotion.
Yeah. And you know what you also had is mass behind you. I didn't have the mass, so I had to add more speed.
You were like 240 pounds, were you?
I was 200 pounds. Wait, now what was my program weight? 240.
Okay.
I was
Well,
6'2", 240 in the program. Our coaches are like, everyone's 40 pounds heavier and 6 inches taller.
But this was high school, right? You were playing against like a 135-pound guy, so technically you were a monster.
No, not at all. Not in the IHSA, bro. We got some beefy fucking dudes in our IHSAs.
We're still talking high school, right?
Yeah, where people supposed to peak. You're the freak who peaked in the NFL. But no, he was talking about how like just the spinal, like your spine will almost like kind of auto-regulate what sports and what positions you play, just because you won't be successful because you just can't withstand the abuse or the movement types, right?
It's kind of like a sport natural selection.
In a way, yeah. Or as Dan John said, right? Geography and genetics. So if you're like Tex and you weren't raised by water, you're going to be afraid of the water because there's sharks in the water.
They're even in the water. They're even in pools.
Yeah, and in the pool. Man, I'm not going in there. There's sharks in those pools. What are you talking about?
I played with guys that were afraid to get in the deep end. They were nervous there were sharks in the pool.
But anyways, let's jump back into the training side of it.
This kid is his events are like the backstroke and the butterfly.
Okay.
So like I can see the gears turning in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I going to put some bands on this kid? Am I going to invent the bands?
Is this the first time you talked about this? Baited question, baited.
Yeah. Am I going to obviously I'm going to do streamline, which we do.
Well,
we do streamline.
First thing you do is bring a kettlebell underwater, like the Speedo commercials.
Sure.
Just kidding. But
I broke your pen. I broke your freaking pen.
Thanks. Welcome. Make yourself at home. So first thing you need to avoid is changing their technique. So you said he's a backstroke and butterfly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what can we do is then work on just his movement mechanics. And then this is where our primal movements come into play. It's as simple as taking the approach of improving his squat, his lunge, his step up, his ability to horizontal press, horizontal pull, and vertical press. So that's step one. It's improving just his ability to execute those. So we're not going to even touch his swimming technique. Then what we're going to do is focus on improving his streamline.
Mm-hmm.
So think of a streamline as his stride length, something we can improve upon. So for each stroke, we're able to increase his ability to maintain a streamline for just 1 inch underwater, distance of 50 meters. We get him that much faster. I probably got to do more research, call up the Ruiz to find out how many strokes it takes to get from one end of the pool for elite, and that'll probably be the goal. And so from there is just focus on his streamline. So with our dead bug, with our Spider-Man with a horizontal Spider-Man Complex 2 horizontal lift, then we can practice his streamline through all planes of motion. So we're twisting, we're bending, we're creating stability within the hips for the X, the Y, the Z. So that's basically all we're doing. How old is this kid?
13.
13? Yeah, he doesn't even necessarily touch weights yet.
So isometrics, maybe some controlled eccentrics, body weight.
And just proficiency through space. And then the streamline.
Mm-hmm.
But don't touch his technique for his swimming. Don't worry about that. Let his sport coaches take care of that.
And when you were talking about like the lower body primals, you were kind of motioning with your hands like the hip movement, and you were going like opening and closing.
But then
what? So we up and like what was?
We said the butterfly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to touch his butterfly, but what do butterflies, the motion include?
Frog kick.
Yeah, the legs are kicking.
So that way we can just work on one hip at a time, and his ability to go through his range of motion, create stability through his range of motion, and then the proficiency of then that movement within a streamlined position. So with that, he's got to separate his hips from his shoulders, not his shoulders from his hips, like a lot of field sport athletes are going to do. Swimmers opposite. You're maintaining kind of squared streamline, and then your hips and legs kicking, doing all the work.
Yeah.
So it's all we did. We showed him the demo was just go into a streamline and then step over a bench. But he came around like
peeing dog,
abduction, whatever you want to call it. presenting without twisting his shoulders. So we're opening that hip, and then with the trail leg as well, just coming up and around, imagine hurdles. And I believe in that position, they're in dorsiflexion.
Okay.
So, and then an aggressive frog kick into plantar. But I got to go to the film.
And if, say you keep a streamline and do like my elbows can't bend now, man. This is my lockout right here, man. Like a single leg lower, or would that be challenging, kind of that pelvic movement and the same idea as what you're saying, right?
Yeah, but
maintain that and lower, like do it like a 3-second eccentric lower on one side and see.
Yes.
But see what I see.
But get his torso vertical. So streamline is going to be the ultimate goal, but if that's preventing him from coming down, whether it's anterior pelvic or over posterior tilt, then just go hug the world. But the goal is going to be to maintain this rigid spine as he moves along the Z-axis.
Why go hug the world? Just because he's breaking?
Because it's not as stressful on his torso or his hamstring as he pulls.
Mm.
But then we can increase the stress, and that's the eventual goal, is to go to streamline.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And then add resistance once he's proficient.
Yeah. Awesome.
So bottom line, fix their mechanics of all the movements you can do, but don't change their technique.
Okay. That's good stuff. He has, like, we talked a little bit about like the kyphotic spine and lower back lordosis kind of thing. Maybe that was the root of his back pain or not, but
probably.
I'm sure that's something to do with it,
Mm-hmm.
But like, definitely we do a lot of the streamline work. I was telling you guys it was more GHD kind of a thing, holds, isometric holds and that, but I like the idea of like challenging that stuff through the ranges of motion.
So it's going to be basically a hold of the streamline, but then his hips are the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Versus a lot of the football, we're going to lock in the hips and then twist, rotate, bend the shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
What else?
Those were like the challenges from with the swimming athlete. The other athlete I work with we just finished up. We were doing he was like off-season football camp. Big, huge kid, man. Type 2 diabetes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And it was purely I'm like, well, what's your diet like? And then this dad comes over, and he's like, you're not gonna like what you see with his nutrition. And I'm like, well, what is it? And he started telling me this eats junk and eats candy, and I'm like, well, what do you guys do? What's like a household? You know what I mean? I'm trying to like challenge their parent without kind of putting them on the spot. And I don't know if I guess I'm trying to like dance around the idea that maybe you should have some accountability for that as well.
Tactfully, right?
Yeah.
Dick punch.
Yeah. And, it's a shame because I viewed that as, like that was brought on type 2 diabetes kind of. Type 1, from what I understand of that, that's different than type 2. Type
disease.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with him, and our whole thing was that was a lot of like the field strong, the stuff that we talked about and do. He made some good progress. I was proud of him. If I can just get him to clean up that diet, man, change those habits. Going back to stuff like this whole step-by-step process. It's like, how can you work like nutrition in there?
But how old is this guy?
Man, how old is he?
Yeah,
he was 13, 14.
Yeah, see, it's like you don't know yet then that you can like maybe make a different decision than your parents do, because like we had Austin, the pitcher, and when John asked him what his diet was and what his family eat, it's like all pasta, all carbs, no meat, low protein, low fat, and John's like, no, you don't fucking eat like that anymore. And we were fortunate enough that the kid, we were talking about, I don't know if it was on the podcast, John, or just like between me, you and Tex, like he was the type of guy who was just like, okay, John, I will fucking, sounds good, and made himself put himself in the position to just trust what John said. And fucking switched his diet up, and what do you think happened? Lost weight, got stronger, like
Injury healed.
Yeah, injuries healed, back pain healed, herniated disc no longer a problem. You know, it's just like, you know, if you can fucking tap into that kid and just be like, hey man, like you got to start making your own decisions. Now the difference is this kid, how old's Austin? 21. Yeah, so he has independence from his folks, you know. And
yeah, but here's the thing: most kids aren't going shopping.
Yeah, that's
my whole deal. Is like most kids aren't going shopping; they are
eating what their parents prepare.
Pretty much prepares for them. So I mean, that's kind of for me. That's like, oh, like you know, and it's like, well, you get to the school and stop giving him fucking money.
Yeah, you know? Pack the lunch, right? Yeah. So
it seems to be like too much work though for those, or everybody's in a fucking hurry. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
The whole world's in a hurry.
The whole world's in a hurry, but it's like they don't have time to eat. We don't have, you know, we got to have these quick meals and stuff like that. And I guess just keep, you know, one approach was just to kind of keep just to keep saying it, right? Like keep presenting as an option, like, you know.
Well, when you were talking to the folks, what did they say?
The basic excuses. Well, we're busy. I'm working, and you know, I don't have time for this and that. And I'm like, you know, you got to. This will not only help him, it'll help you, right? Like it's a whole lifestyle.
Well, maybe you go shock therapy.
Weird. Don't get weird on it. Don't overwhelm it, right? Like everybody be like, okay, I'm gonna rearrange everything, and I'm gonna go like, you know, in a strict thing, and then after like 2-3 weeks, they just
crash
fucking shit to bed, right? It becomes too much work.
Does his parents drop him off for training?
They'll stay.
Then guess what your next session is? You're going shopping.
We're gonna go.
I had to do that once.
Yeah.
Did you go teach them how to read labels, or just make them make better fucking?
Both.
It's terrible. Investment
comes through understanding. So just make that session's on the house, whatever, or take the whatever you're charging, and then that's groceries.
Yeah.
Give them an opportunity to get, you know, 5 meals or 5 days of food out of that one trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nutrition shit's slippery, man. Just a hard thing, especially when the fucking folks are clearly enablers and contributors and fucking participants in the gluttony of fucking candy bars and snacks.
You know, it's the
candy bars.
It's the missing piece. You know, when I was talking about Jenny earlier in the show, like the girl, the Strongman girl, like she right now, I think she's 200. She's lost like 90 pounds in the past year by just doing like strongman training, some bodybuilding, and getting her diet, right? And then now she's starting to get some haters because there's people who just maybe work out for an hour a day, soccer moms and stuff like that, and they're not getting those kind of results. They see her and they're like, what is she doing? How come I don't have that? I'm here all the time, right? And it's like, well, she eats better.
Yeah.
She gets her rest. You know, that's what challenges me the most, right? I when I started doing more of the strongman stuff, like I increased my calories to like 3,800 a day. My problem is like sleep.
Denny, do you really count calories?
I have an app that does it. Do you believe me?
No.
No, I think you did. It gives me an idea. So like I have a general idea of
it's directionally accurate
where I'm at, but you know, I'm usually there because I understand like portion size and you know, I know I'm within that window.
Yeah. And
I can see it in this manly, sexy body you see right here, and then
which for our listeners,
he's pointing it at me, guys.
No, Denny is only in a pair of white BBDs, the original tighty whitey.
That's how I roll, man.
Which don't appear they haven't been washed in a week or so.
No. I mean,
his underwear looks like Rocky's wife beater in Rocky 3. There was no Rocky 2.
Rocky 2? Yeah. No, I mean,
there's spaghetti skin. There's a hole. I'm pretty sure there's a skid mark.
It's total risky business. Tom Cruise.
But like homeless or hipster Tom Cruise in risky business, like, you know, the one that doesn't shower or buys dilapidated clothes.
Well, what do you think?
I think that you look great.
No, but it's my sleep. Sorry, Dr. Kirk Parsley. Right? Like that's the missing.
He's not sorry.
His whole thing, you know, that's obviously something I can get better at, right? Like I'm averaging like 5-6 hours, and I got to try and get better at that.
Well, here's what I want you to do.
Write it down.
Here's my goal.
I know what you
I'm
want
going
to
to
do.
put pen to paper.
And I want you to write it down. But use vocal awareness in which you say, I will get 6.5 hours sleep.
Let's back up, right?
Nice picture,
I
hurt my hip. You see, I said, Mark, this X-ray hurt my hip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
So I asked him how Peck was doing, and I was like, man, he's asked me, and I was like, I fucked up my hip, dude. Check the X-ray.
Classic X-ray joke.
It's fucking like try to drop that one on people.
You think it'll pick up on it?
He's too busy thinking about himself.
So giving you a little play-by-play, Denny is writing down goal.
Yeah. I want.
No.
It starts with I want to improve.
You need
my
to
sleep.
do language. I will.
But it starts with I want.
That's
And
it's
goes
saying,
to
hey,
I will. We're skipping right over I
making
want.
the decision of what you want to do, but then writing it down and then the correct language of I will.
I will.
Yeah.
Get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Now,
How many days a week?
well, I'd be cool with at least 3.
Well, then
Start
put that
with-
sucker down.
Right, 3.
We're going 3. Start with 3 days.
Yeah. So you'll get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you'll realize how good you feel, and then you'll go for 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do one. Let's do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Real life does get in the way.
Thursday's my 5 a.m. group class that I get to get up for earlier.
Yeah.
So, and then usually the swimmer and the football kid, they keep me at the gym Wednesday nights. So
Just how life works out.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But I can definitely prep for that kind of stuff, right? Better. So
And you got a 9 to 5, so you could just take a nap there too, right? Just nap at the office.
you know it. I got it. Like if I can get in like this position here and kind of put some paperwork right here, it looks like I'm kind of like what John's doing right now. Right? Like, it looks like he's doing something.
He's actually napping.
He's napping.
What about those glasses that with open eyes?
Those don't work.
You know from experience?
I know from experience. But no, Denny, dude, it's good to catch up with you, man. I mean,
it's great to be out here. I'm looking forward to this weekend. My birthday's Saturday.
oh, big time.
So yeah,
What are the plans after the cert?
you tell me, right?
Well, we got options.
If
We
you
can get
guys
some-
don't put me on the plane Sunday morning, I think my plane leaves at Sunday morning at 7. Like if I don't crawl to that plane, then
Well, typically birthdays include tacos,
yeah,
margaritas.
tacos and margaritas will work.
But you need to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So
Well, we'll start that next week. Yeah. This isn't the week to do that. Let's start next.
No, man, that's good stuff, man. But yeah, peeps, we got our Power Athlete Seminar coming up this weekend. But by the time you hear this, that's gonna be old news. But we're gonna
what other
crush it. It's gonna
seminars do we
be
have?
if you're in Italy, in Rome, Texas is going to be out in Rome. We're going to be going to Oktoberfest in Germany. We've got Amsterdam, so we're going on a little international tour. In October, we're going to be in Philly. That's short for Philadelphia. At were we at Tony Fu's gym, or were we at a different gym?
No, Tony Food.
Tony Fitz. He's a Pittsburgh.
Okay. But anyways, yeah, dude, check it out. CrossFitFootball.com/events, and you're going to see some crazy shit popping up there soon. I don't know. Good talk, boys.
Awesome.
Let's get some lunch.
Let's do it. I'm starving. I worked up a good appetite.
All right, let's do it. All right,
Yeah,
to our
thanks.
listeners, we will see you in the next premiere podcast episode of Power Athlete Radio.
Or at another time.
Yeah, hasta. Bye.
Thanks, Denny.
Now it's time for you to empower your performance. Denny K represents the everyman, just a hardworking father of roughly 12 daughters, and he is strong as hell. Follow him on Instagram under the name, which I cannot pronounce, DKREROWICZ. And don't forget, Wade's Army's 5th annual Wade's Day campaign has officially kicked off. From now until November 12th, we will be honoring the brave pediatric cancer patients battling neuroblastoma, a tumor derived from immature nerve cells. For 2016, we're embracing their valor and highlighting their nerves of steel. Join the fight against neuroblastoma and help us reach our goal of fundraising $125,000. Enlist today at wadesarmy.org by clicking the Donate Now badge and claim your limited edition Wades Army uniform. Every Army needs a uniform. Until next time, bye!